Hi, all newbie teachers and EFL people, I guess. Let's see. Okay, so today I'm going to do a video on controlling a larger class. Because normally, if you're new to EFL and you go to any private language school, a lot of times I think you might just be teaching small groups and individuals, which is great because then you get to think about your lessons and you have all that new excitement over I'm going to do all these cool things and I get to play all these games and do different quirky ideas. But then sometimes they might send you into a school, especially like if you're teaching in a place like I am, like Italy. A lot of schools will they'll get contracts out to schools or businesses, but businesses won't be so much of a problem. Schools is a different matter. And you might have like 20 some odd kids, and they might be middle schoolers or high schoolers that don't speak very much English at all. And you're supposed to just go in there and control them on your own. And they do that. A lot of private schools will do that to teachers who have no experience and who just have a TEFL certification, which is not necessarily, large group teacher training. So, anyways, this is just some tips about how to survive. Normally we've gotten a lot of what we call jungle classes, which are just, you think a kid's going to jump out the window and you have no control. Because the problem is that you can say whatever you want and you could try to control them and you can try to, I don't know, get by without shouting at them. But if a person doesn't understand the words coming out of your mouth, it's very hard to have an impact. And a lot of times with school projects, that's what you're looking at, is kids who are not going to understand what you're saying. So you basically need to have some ideas about how you're going to control your group, because it's great having lots of fun, quirky ideas about how to do stuff. But if you can't control your group, you can't do anything with them because they won't listen to you and you won't even be able to get them to be quiet. So how can you even do an activity with them? So the first thing that unfortunately, with large groups, the first thing that you have to think about is how am I going to control this group so that we can do anything throughout the class. Okay, so first area is the first thing to think about is your body language. If you've been teaching for a long time, you naturally just do things in a confident way. But if you're new to it, you're automatically going to be doing all the wrong things. So first thing, don't be fidgety. Make really slow, steady movements and have a calm demeanor, because if you're always like picking something up and fiddling with it and moving around too fast, it gives off a bad vibe. And it's silly that you have to think about stuff like that, but it's true. Fidgety teachers are usually not the ones that, think about the fidgety teachers that you had. They're usually young teachers who don't know what they're doing. Okay, also, I would say, especially with a large class, don't turn your back on the class. That's just begging for something to happen. If you're in a large group and you're having to move around because you want to hear what people are saying and you're doing some sort of communication activity or something like that, you can't have your eye on everybody, but as much as possible, try not to have your back to people, because, you just get all sorts of things when your eye's not on the whole group, which, as I say, is almost impossible. But just be aware that you need to, as much as possible, keep your eye on everybody. And I would say especially for little kids as well, because little kids are always going to be doing silly things. They're not going to hurt each other, but little kids always are running off or, like hitting each other or pinching each other or something. So it's good to have in your mind that you want to keep your eye on things. Which is easy for a young teacher to not even think about, because they're thinking about their lesson plans more than they are the class. Also, I would say if you have a big class, you almost always need to be standing, which of course is not going to be the case if you're used to small groups or individuals. You're not going to be standing. That would be awkward. But with a big group, you want something, one, that sets you apart from the rest of the group. And two, it allows you to have eye contact with everybody, because at any moment you could have some problem. Some kid might throw something or, who knows, but you need to be able to have eye contact if possible at all times with your students. Okay, so body language. Think about your body language and think about how you're moving in class. as I say, this is just for new teachers. Older teachers aren't going to need this so much. Because you're already going to be doing all these things just naturally. Okay, second thing, it's really important that you establish rules for your class. Again, this is slightly silly, but you need to be overly organized. You want to have everything in order. You don't want to be like running through your papers and thinking, oh crud, where's that exercise that I was going to do? I mean, any problem is not that big of a deal with like an individual or group. People are not going to be that fussy. With 30 kids in a classroom and all speaking in a different language that you may or may not know, and they may or may not speak English at all, you want to have everything just one after the other, everything in order. That way you're not fiddling around. There's not 5 minutes for them to go into chaos. So be overly organized for the big groups. Also, anything that you want to do stuff repetitively, so much that it's almost like a joke. So if you want them to be raising their hands, because a lot of classes, the kids don't know, am I supposed to shout out? Am I supposed to raise your hand? Well, like you decide that as a teacher. But I would say if you have a big group, you probably want them to raise their hands, because otherwise, chaos, especially in a second language. So whatever sort of prompts or rules you want, you need to find out as soon as possible what you want them to do, and then just always do it. Don't make the mistake of sometimes doing it and sometimes not doing it, because then the students don't know which way is it today, is this or that, and they'll usually take the option that is lazier or more chaotic. So it's slightly silly, but just overdo everything at the front, and then if you want to take it back and be a little bit more relaxed as the year goes on, do that. I know a lot of teachers say don't smile until spring, which is a little bit true, because it's as I say, it's so much easier to overdo it and then back off as you go than it is to try to regain your control after you've already let if you've been all happy and friendly and smiley and had no control in the first 6 weeks. Getting it back is going to be almost impossible, because the students, and you can remember teachers that you had like that. Students decide really fast what type of teacher you are and how much they can get away with you. So if you want to teach them anything, you can't have them just doing whatever they want. If you want to be offering them anything, you have to have control of them, so that you can get done what you want to do. Let's see. And as I say, it's a lot easier to relax than it is to go back and say, oh, I don't have control over this class, and now I have to, set up new rules and do things in a different way, because, that is a lot harder than just starting from day one and then figuring yourself out as you go along.